So for people watching the video, we have just briefly discussed the meetings for the remainder of the year. This meeting will be canceled December 22nd and 29th, but we will have it next week on the 15th. So now you're caught up. Yeah. That up in progress. All right, opening up. P2P Peer Discovery. There's two vendors that have submitted their proposals, the folders, and all of the inclusive documents. For example, the financial spreadsheet, the exhibit for their authority and their whole response. Since it's in multiple documents, what we did is we shared into the coalition link the folder that has all of their documents. We did go back to all of the vendors to make sure that they filled things out in the format that we want, so to have a little bit more consistency. So those are available for you to immediately start reading. One item related to this is the idea of, do we want to set up a half an hour with each of the vendors, which is a common thing to do if you have multiple vendors, if the bids are complex enough. If you don't think they're complex enough, that's not necessary, but I am throwing it out there. And if we want to do that, we have on the schedule that would be something we did next week.
Jeff, before we even did that, should we go through, like, does everyone seen that the two bids have come in and what the prices were and all that? It's all been shared in the coalition group, right, Jeff?
Yes.
I guess we are recording and stuff. So, the bids, I don't know that we want to discuss details of the bids on recording, do we? Or is it completely transparent? Do we show all the bids on the open internet and everything?
So we've not been posting individual company bids publicly.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think we have. I think it's fair that we do not. As the guy who's always saying err on the side of transparency, I think in terms of competing bids, I think it's fair for us to keep those, or required basically for us to keep those internal. That's my take.
Yeah, I wonder if we were to go into an evaluation discussion, if we should have that not maybe recorded as well. I mean, the bids are very starkly contrasted. I think there's a lot of people on this call that could really, add value to the discussion. I'm just not sure if we go into that level of detail in recording, we might as well make them public. And I agree, we don't necessarily want to make them public. I don't think we told the
we haven't told people that they're going to be made public, and they may have a problem with that. Exactly. I would say, again, I'm typically the transparency dad, and I would say these things are not what our community expects us to do, or should reasonably expect us to do. So, we don't record every single job interview. We didn't, there's basic business. We record, these are like, basically we're a hyper transparent, company that has regular, high level meetings, but we don't have to do every last thing. It's just not, no one expects that. It would be unfair of us to do it. So let's just keep those.
I think what we need is a discussion first internally, Jeff, before we decide to meet the vendors. I would like to propose that, although do we have one more before? We have one next week, right? That would be the 15th.
Well, no. So we also have the standing Monday right? Meeting.
Okay.
And that could be a good topic for that.
Let's if the group is okay with it, I'd like to say that we should use this as part of the Monday agenda to kind of go in and compare and contrast. I'm hoping all the people on this call can make it as well, Aaron included. I think it's worth going through the two bids. They are starkly contrasting each other, and there would be different approaches that I would use depending on which vendor we selected as to how we maybe, worked forward with it. So without saying much more on the call, I think we have a good path, then that's fine. Then on Monday, at the end of that, Jeff, maybe that's a good time to decide if we would go forward and want to meet with both of the vendors.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Or what's that? The 12th. Okay. All right. RAN limitation fixes. I did want to make sure everybody is aware that we had one vendor submit their intent to bid, and that was the ENF. This will be the first time the ENF is bidding. So what we are doing is Steven Diesel, working with Ted, is taking the role of the vendor on this as our product manager. And Amy and I are continuing to be the people to shuttle questions back and forth. We will make sure that as questions come in, everybody in the coalition gets it, so that this is not ENF working with ENF to get this, but there's full transparency on the normal process as we've discussed before. Are there any concerns with that?
What will be not concerns, but practical questions. For one, will the voting be any different? So, for example, if a vendor is proposing something, do they then recuse?
Yes.
As I think UX did. So I guess that's question one for me. Would that be done with would?
Yes, we would abstain from voting. We would recuse ourselves.
Okay, great. I assumed, but it's good to get down here. The situation that I was in with the secure smart contract library proved to be not a good one. That was a specific thing itself, but there were times when I was making decisions, for the whole coalition, and I didn't feel comfortable with that, but I did it. I did it because we needed to advance it. So one of the things and it had to do with people travel and all kinds of things, but that's not a job for one person. So I would want to make sure that there was more, there's more support. I would like, if it's going to be like this, especially with the ENF, I think that there should be a representative from each of the other chains in the committee that have actual approval and be active in the discussions and whatnot. So that's the other thing I would request and suggest, knowing that it's probably going to be me on the TELOS side because I don't want to take up any of Jesse's time that could be done on technical contributions. So
I think we expect Lucas and Guillaume to personally be highly involved in this because it's important to them. These RAM limitations are at least I think they're important to Lucas.
For Lucas, it's your top thing, I would guess, if you had to pick a top
thing. I mean, I'm planning to be very much involved in the review of this, so for sure.
Yeah, we just happen to have a person who's probably well suited to leading it. And so that's why we're bidding on it, being that REG is kind of a scarce resource. So, but it will be done, all out in the open. We just happen to have the probably the optimal resource for it. So it's definitely going to be an open and collaborative process.
Okay. Those are my concerns, and it sounds like if we don't have maybe there are other concerns. If it's ultimately if no one has a problem with it being Lucas, Guillaume, and myself on that review, that seems like that would be very efficient. But and we could just keep moving. But does anybody else have any questions about that?
Just so for the record, Stefan did reach out to me and asked me if I would be willing, if our team would be willing to be a subcontractor for that particular bid. We said we are open to it, but if I mean, it might, like at that point, of course, if we also participate in that bid, that leaves only two of you, like TELOS and Wax, to cast a vote on that particular one. So I mean, I'd say like from my end, I would I mean, if we're needed to participate in that bid, for some reason, we would be open to it. But I think it might also make sense to try to find a way for ENF to do it by themselves, so that at least there's the other three chains are involved in the decision.
Yeah,
and that way I wouldn't have to.
I would say that to the extent possible, it would be much better for the bidding process if there weren't these types of multiple subcontractor situations. You know, just for the reasons we talked about and other, it just drives so much complexity. I would say I really don't want to be back in that.
Well, so one thing that we learned from the last time is that going forward, and this has nothing to do with ENF, this is in general, we are only going to allow one vendor as the primary vendor to submit, and they have to have all inclusive. They can have subcontractors, but we would essentially be negotiating with the one primary vendor. And so in this example, if for some reason Guillaume was brought in, the only other caveat would be UX would be recused from the voting, in which case either we're presenting something to TELOS and Wax that you both accept, or if one of you votes no, that it would fail, right? In which case you would get all four. If both vote yes, and obviously if ENF and UX are bidding on it, you'd have all four chains in alignment moving it forward.
Yeah, I hear that, and I appreciate that. The thing I appreciate most is that we are taking a situation that you know didn't go well. I basically feel like I failed in trying to make that. You know, I feel a lot around that, but that's not why it's not my therapy session. I think but we need to look into what did happen and what could have and how to improve it. And so I'm super encouraged that we're doing that. And then I think that one of the takeaways is, in addition to just not having it be, you know, a bunch of subcontractors or co-contractors, which effectively was, and just have one master contractor. That's great. But I also think that there's a negative in having multiple chains. Like, I wouldn't necessarily have the same problem with ENF and some other contractor that was not ENF, but was essentially an EOS aligned chain or unaligned or whatever. But when it's like two things want to work on it, I think that makes it harder for the coalition. I think I'd like us, except in extreme conditions, to say, okay, well, this is, you know, if ENF is doing it, then they'll find somebody, you know, within them, and that can be a co-contractor or subcontractor or whatever, but it shouldn't be somebody from TELOS, probably, you know, because then it puts it's not necessarily a fair position to put the other chain representatives in voting, having been there, I would say. So I'd like it if, you know, it's the ENF, so I think that they'll be able to find somebody to do, you know, whatever part it is that you would do as a subcontractor. That's my request based on the experience of having done it. I think that we need all three of us to stay, because, you know, one of the things we don't think about also is sometimes people become busy. The Smarts contract one, we just sort of lost some people who wanted to keep it moving forward. It was, and that may happen again. So any, as the preppers say, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So, and scene.
All right. Any other comments on this? All right.
Nothing from me.
Good. All right. Antler CDT. The sizing and the scheduling that we talked about last time we brought this up, is well underway. Most of the CDT components are broken out. I don't think we're quite at the point of being ready to publish it and talk about it today, but we're really close. As soon as we get those turned into real projects, we'll start publishing those like we do our other projects. Ted, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No, we don't. I don't think I have any more information on it yet. We're still working through a lot of the planning sessions on that.
All right, let's see. Milestone payment for SDK. Actually, I'm sorry, this was closed already. All right, Ledger app. Have we? I know Eric was looking for approval on this the last time we talked to him.
Do you have an update? I had talked with him on it. I can go back and refresh my notes here a second, but he has been working with them directly. It's more about submitting a testing framework and an automated testing framework and stuff like that, so that they can ensure that it's not broken where there's an automated CI/CD where there's a regression. He's been doing all that and working back and forth, and then there'll be lags on their end where they're like not getting back to him right away. But he's on top of it, and so it's making progress. I can go look to get maybe better notes if you want. I mean, he has them in a Telegram chat with me. That's my recollection of what he explained to me.
Okay.
That's exciting. So when that comes out, that will be a Antelope project, right? And we will, because it's pretty big news. So we'll all be figuring out how to get that out to our communities, right? Is that?
Yeah, so I said, what remains for them to be happy in any ETA other than the GitHub actions of testing with an emulator? Are there other code fixes that are required? The process isn't clear, so hard for me to say what remains. I will follow up and ask detailed questions. Most basic, there are 3 steps: ledger merger testing updates, ledger merging code and security fixes, ledger reviews, and approved new 1.4.4 EOS wallet for public release. There could be additional approvers or documentation, but that's where he was, and he's had been pinging back in and forth.
Yeah. So that sounds to me like they are seeing this as something they're doing with EOS, and I have no problem with it. I think these are reasonable expectations that people make, but I just want to make sure that we don't get to the end and they go and they say, oh, well, we're not, Wax and and TELOS and UX. What? We want to make sure that we're working with them as a group to the extent that we will also be able to, use like TELOS will also be able to use all the ledger access and not have to go through a separate review process. Let
me update Eric right now while we're on the call, and let him know that that's important, that it works with all Antelope based chains. I think that is the intention, but obviously Eric is probably testing with EOS wallets and stuff.
Exactly. That's my concern. I don't think anything. I think that maybe they understand everything, but having dealt with this for a while, I think that there is a natural and common, totally honest mistake that could come up in us thinking, oh, it's for everybody, and them thinking, oh, it's specifically for EOS. And if we can head that off now, I think it'd be great for all the chains. So
there might be also another thing that needs to be addressed there. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked into the details, but maybe Aaron, maybe but if they are using the extended HD derivation mechanism, each individual chain has to have a unique integer code, basically, that is kind of like publicly shared, publicly known, and reserved. I think EOS has 80 or something. I don't remember. But there's like a code assigned for each chain, and it would be part of the requirement for each chain to have that code, basically like reserve that number and communicate that with the Ledger and other HD wallet vendors.
The way it works right now is everybody's using the same derivation path. And it's not causing any problems. It works on every chain. It's just it results in different keys that are on the device. Jumping back to what Douglas was saying, I think that this may be an opportunity, if there's going to be a new version released, to rename and rebrand the application. I don't think that was in the scope of what Eric was working on. No. But changing working with the Ledger team to change it so it's not called the EOS app anymore, and instead it is called the Antelope app, would certainly help alleviate confusion on behalf of users. Like, even if it's just a name change and potentially, I think there's a logo baked into it. Maybe we could have a new ASCII version of the logo baked into it. Those should be relatively minor changes and could be included in this next release.
It sounds like a reasonable statement. I'm just concerned because nobody has Antelope tokens, right? They have Wax tokens or TELOS tokens or EOS tokens. And I'm worried, would people immediately understand I'd almost rather have it say EOS, TELOS, Wax, UX or something. I totally get that it should be an Antelope generic, and that makes sense. Other than the fact that people might not know, like, hey, I've got EOS, I want the ledger for EOS, I want the software.
Right. We have that today because all TELOS and Wax users that use the Ledger have to install the EOS app. It's called the EOS app right now. And we tell Wax and TELOS users they need to use the EOS app. So if it was something that weren't named after one chain, it's probably less confusing.
Except for the people who already have the EOS chain. So I have to represent our chain, right? I don't mind making it EOS, Wax, TELOS, UX. But to lose EOS off that, I think would be bad. It's better for TELOS and Wax and UX. It's worse for us because EOS is clearly our token, right? So if there's a way that we could do this where we made it clear, multi-chain EOS, Wax, TELOS, UX, or whatever order, I don't care if we're last. I just don't want to see agreed, then we'd all go into obscurity instead of three of you being in obscurity. And I do agree we should.
I think that's I think that's a totally legitimate concern. I think we should discuss it sort of armed with facts, meaning just looking at the app or the proposed app and where it would say some things and where it would say other things. We can and find out, can we have an EOS app and an Antelope app, and and eventually have them be the same thing, but
what if it?
Yeah. So we could if there is a chance of essentially make it a generic. So maybe the core is EOS and remains EOS, but as long as it's open for white labeling, then each of our corresponding chains can we can ourselves work with Ledger and white label it and change it so there is a Wax app or TELOS app or UX app, right?
The problem
we don't want to have to. We don't want to have to work with them directly. I mean, that's what I'm trying to head off. Like, we would like to work with them collectively, and make sure that whatever situation we figure out collectively is something that satisfies the needs of each chain. Like, I don't think we need a TELOS app. I think we just need we need an app that works, right?
From a limitations perspective, the app takes up maybe a third to a half sometimes of some of these devices. It would be impossible for users to include all 4 chains apps on a single ledger device. So they'd be uninstalling and reinstalling apps, and
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, and also real users, like so myself as a user, I would look at this. I wouldn't want to have to switch apps if if the vision that we're presenting of Antelope and the chains and IBC and all these things, what we're putting out there is not, is something where we would want an Antelope app that would work for all the chains. Because as a user, I want to do it the way I use my Anchor. I do my TELOS stuff.
That would be ideal. I mean, maybe this is something that we have to vote for, right? I mean, this is if we're paying for this, right? Then naming this is something we need to vote for.
Yeah,
I understand objections from EOS. I definitely understand that.
Yeah, well, EOS is paying for it right now. The coalition's not paying for it. But again, I don't want to snipey about this, but maybe we could have it say, really, we're talking about a labeling and a marketing issue. So if in the live store, in the Ledger live store, if it said Antelope, open paren, EOS, TELOS, WAX, UX, then that might be good enough, because then you start to make it more explicit, like, oh, it's got EOS, and it's got TELOS in there, and WAX and UX too. Oh, it's the end. Okay, I get it. I just don't want to lose something we really have today, where people go, this is the EOS wallet. I don't mind adding the others on, and I do agree with Aaron. We should start to somehow condition them. It's the Antelope wallet, and that would be great. And it's really coming down to now, how many letters can we have in the live store? So when they download, here the line says it's Antelope, EOS, WAX, TELOS, UX. And if we can get that, I think that's great. Then we start the Antelope, but we didn't drop EOS off its name anywhere. You could search EOS in the live store and it would still come up, or you could search TELOS now.
So what I'm suggesting is we just have once we have like a group that's with somebody from each chain that actually looks at the actual specific usage of each thing, just like you started to describe there. I think that we work together very well, and we can come up with a solution that works for everybody and doesn't is additive for the entire group and for everyone, not looking to take anything away. By the way, I did not know that was something that I thought that was an Antelope thing. So thank you for that, and thanks for listening to my concerns before, or my request before, because frankly, it's EOS is doing it, EOS is paying for it. We shouldn't get say over everything. But
guys, I mean, Ted, you guys are paying for it. I don't mind this being called EOS. It is now called EOS, and all our users are fine, right?
I mean, we'll try to accommodate. I don't think it's an unusual request. I just don't want to go backwards since we're paying.
Yeah.
I think there's.
If we just look at it, we can all come to a good decisions. And frankly, you're paying for it. So if we can't come up with something that's acceptable to you, you're paying for it. So you guys can just say no. If you give us the opportunity to look at it and make some suggestions,
absolutely.
Then that's how I would pose it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be open-minded. That's why I'm saying, like, I agree. The better thing is say Antelope. I just don't want to lose EOS off it. Then the question is, can we say Antelope and show what the 4 Antelope chains are? Adding EOS, TELOS, WAX, UX onto it makes it also better in search. I'm trying to bring.
I love it.
app and it won't load for some reason, because I want to see in the live store when I'm searching for apps, if I searched for, like, what is the length? I just can't make the damn thing load for some reason. Because I wanted to bring it up, but right on my desktop here and search it and
I've
see.
got it open.
Does it let you search? Because there's a list of apps, right? Is there a search box on it?
There is a search box, and it looks like there are 2 names for the application.
Can you share that just real quickly?
Yeah, if you could share, that'd be awesome.
Screen, or do you just want a screenshot? How do we want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, well, you don't have to show us the value of your wallet.
Screenshot.
No, I'll put it in chat.
Okay, perfect. Just so we know how it comes up.
Yeah, and so what it looks like is there's an app name, which we could call Antelope, and then in parentheses in the App Store, it has the token name. So I'm assuming we could have multiple token names there.
Approved. I'll go with that. If we can then put EOS, TELOS, WAX, UX, or whatever your token names are.
Yeah, we might want to check with them just to make sure that we can put a bunch of different token names there. But I think the goal here that we've identified is that, like, we want a common name, but we want the search terms to be able to target all of our chains. Yes. So that way, no matter what chain you search for, that one app will come up and it'll make sense for the user.
Yes.
Because the user is going to search for whatever blockchain they're using, whether it's WAX or TELOS or EOS or UX. And then if it just pops up with Antelope, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. And people who use a lot of chains or more than one chain are gonna want to be able to use the keys as they choose.
Yeah.
So I love it. Thanks, guys, for being open to this and for doing it. I think this is gonna be great.
So I'll try to get Eric. So Eric, I've already asked Eric to make sure in his testing it does work on all the chains. This is a little above what he normally does, is like ask them like, hey, what about the label in the live store and stuff? I'll have him try that at some point. Jeff or I might need to take that part over. I don't even mind if Aaron does, but it's just not something Eric's used to dealing with, honestly.
Well, thank you for doing that and for managing that relationship. And
sure.
I truly believe that not only will it be best for my particular chain, I think it'll be great for the coalition and just the perception that it's as we do these things and make them people become more familiar with the fact that okay, this is Antelope. Antelope is a thing. It's that second half of the really hard half of the branding that we just have to keep pushing. We use our branding ourselves first. So,
and the TELOS token is TLOS, right? It doesn't have an E in it, right?
Correct.
And is the WAX token just WAX?
P. Yeah. WAX P. Is it WAX or WAX P? Sorry.
WAX P, that's the ticker symbol.
And then what is UX? Does it have a token yet, Guillaume?
Yes, it's a UTX, and we also have a separate token for RAM called UTX RAM.
Is it okay if we just list UTX?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so that's going to be the request, that we see if we can name it Antelope with EOS, TELOS, WAX P, UTX behind it. So those come up in search terms, and then we got the best of everything.
Yep. And to put the wallet perspective on it as well, like when we tell people to download it from Anchor, we're just going to say Antelope because our users use all chains. So this satisfies all the chains and the wallets, I think.
Good solution.
All right.
Bag to win for today. Everybody.
All right, next topic, Trezor hardware. Have they gotten back to you, Lucas?
They did not.
All right. You might, I don't know if you're pinging them each week. Just let us know what's going on.
There's nothing to ping. There's a post that I made, and last time I checked, there was nothing there.
That's right.
No response.
So they're basically a company similar to Ledger. Is that true? Or no? Is this something completely different?
They make a hardware wallet. which is similar to Ledger. Yes.
Yeah.
So
and they have software. They have and they also have quite a bit of software. Their own, their own suite of software and web interface that allows interacting with the chains.
So do you think I don't know where we are. We might be 39th, we might be 41st on CoinMarketCap. Do you think that it might be just a syndrome of they're like, if you're not in the top, N, we're just not going to even waste our time replying to you? Do you think it'd be better if maybe Jeff or I reached out, or if Aaron reached out? I mean, Aaron comes from Aaron's kind of like competition.
They don't consider Aaron competition. But this is started by Slash and not the Guns N' Roses guitarist.
Slash, I know.
Yeah, he's an early Bitcoiner guy, and he had Slash Pool. Anyway, never mind. Since the stroke, I'm just kidding. It's not coming through for me. But he was an early Bitcoiner. These guys are very Bitcoin forward. But they do. But they have all kinds of Ethereum, and they work with a lot. I think they want to be with these ecosystems.
But the only way to contact them is like a contact us form, and they're not getting back.
There's not even a contact us form. There's no email for this sort of support. So I posted a question how to contact them, and this is what we are trying to do in their forum, public forum.
Wow, that's crazy.
The response we got when we were doing the Wallet Plus paper was that they're only going to consider coins in the top 30.
There you go. And we're not in the top 30. None of them.
Getting there.
Yeah. Well, I think we know our answer then.
Well, should we close this then? I mean, we keep talking about it each week, and we come back to we're not in the top 30. I mean, it's.
Yeah, maybe we put that. Maybe we can put that in the notes and move it to the someday pile.
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable idea.
I'll put it back in the backlog. We'll come back to it.
My mouse might be. Oh, here they have a support section of their website that I've found, although none of it has an email. That's pretty crazy.
I've been getting their spam for years because I was an early user there. I'll go mine some old things and see if I can old emails, see if they used to have anything, if it still works. I maybe don't put that in the.
No. Wow, that's terrible.
All right. Next topic, the adding new chains to the coalition. Just a quick update is as of Monday, Eve had not heard back from the chain that was interested. He is now traveling, so this one is more or less going to be deprioritized since the chains that were really interested have not been responding at this point. If they do respond, we'll kind of dust this one off and bring it out. Everybody else on that meeting, is that also your recollection? Did I?
Yeah, one thing I'd add is that something that came up was a lot of people who were asking, and their excitement about joining Antelope. They thought they were they thought it was a source of funding, not they thought there was revenue and not costs. And once they found out that it was the opposite, the crickets started chirping, right? So I don't think we need. My take was just like yours. We don't really need to revisit this until there's somebody who does, except for the one thing that I think is important, which is that I do think we do need to have some kind of discussion about levels of membership, so that at the very least, if any chains say, hey, we're not joining, but we are using the software, and should there ever, and we want to be included in any kind of alerts, should there ever be a critical alert, and a patch and whatnot, we want to be, we would like to be KYC'd into that group, as was done in the past with Block One. I think that's a reasonable, level of, we will know who we want to know who we have to deal with. That can all be done in GitHub, but we might at some point want to have some kind of something where they are able to show their users, and we are able to, that they are, in this, like some kind of just like little logo bug, and name to indicate that not only are they using the software, but they are in communication with us and on our list for security updates, patches, anything like that. We currently don't have any kind of designation like that, and I think that we will need it, and that's the first thing we're actually going to ever need to do about additional chains for a while.
Makes sense.
Any other comments? All right. Developer onboarding and development workshop. Updates on that?
I have an update. So we're going to have 2 more meetings with them next week. I'm embarrassed to say that after looking at their training program more closely, it is a 52-week training program. And what I have to get back from their data, it looked like it was a 5-week training program to me, because I looked at the phases as being a week. Like, I've never heard of going away to a 52-week training program. And I won't even get into their billing model on how it's going to work. But so we have a call with them next week where I'll be asking, like, hey, was this person supposed to be training and working in a ratio, and how many hours a week were training and how many hours a week were they actually on the job working? That'll help, that it's like, okay, they're 20% of the time, like 1 day a week, they're doing this training and stuff, and 4 days a week they're coding, and the program stretches out over a year. Since that's how it works, that's maybe more reasonable that they're kind of getting on the job training as well. I don't have that information. It took me a while to put the whole analysis together. But that is the way it is set up right now from them. And so I need some more data. Bart did a good job of reviewing the syllabus of of what they're building, and he started giving Pete Mesnier feedback that he wanted it grouped differently in the syllabus, so that it would help a developer come on board and start tackling problems more immediately, versus just like linearly learning things that, these 3 items grouped together, and then they could solve these types of bugs or problems, these things grouped together. Phil seemed open to that, and I believe there's a call tomorrow afternoon at 2:00 where Bart is going to go through that with them and get them a regrouping of the syllabus and stuff. But this concept of how long the training program lasts, and what if a person did it nothing, straight full-time, did not part-time, or is that them expecting this to be a full-time training program? So I need to get some clarity. It's one of the most unusual proposals I've ever read, and so I admit I missed a spot on that. But
I have never heard of a training program lasting a year.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's called college, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I mean, to me, like 5 weeks sounds about right, but I don't know how like you would fill a whole year of content. I mean,
less than one. This is a computer.
exactly. Like, I mean, what are you going to learn?
They get to programming languages, in month 2 and GitHub in month 4. Yeah. And what is the EOS?
Usual. We felt that when we were hiring just people off the street, we felt that training, they weren't really able to, be super productive and close bugs until about the 4th to 6th month. Like there was such a steep learning curve, and we had at Block One, we had all these internal training documents and videos, and they would be following along and watching code and looking at PRs being closed and stuff, but they couldn't really start to contribute until like the 3rd month, and they weren't really valuable until about the 6th month. So just on the internals, just on internals, and we had a taxonomy of about 21 different items of the internals. And we kind of felt that they had to at least get to a reasonable degree of mastery of about half of those, so that we could consider them to be useful. And eventually the goal would be that they would have reasonable level of familiarity with all 21 items of the taxonomy. And we had obviously people that were the original authors of all 21 areas of that taxonomy. And that's how they would go through their training and where they would ask questions and stuff. So,
what would you say?
It's code base.
What would you say was the kind of background for someone like that? Because I mean, were they coming just as like C++ developer, or did they have like prior experience in blockchain? Or
no, they were they had no blockchain in general, but they were C++. They had to do modern C++, meaning like version 14 or newer of the C++ compiler. We wanted them to be able to do version 17, sorry. We wanted them to have a systems programming background. So, have worked on database servers, or worked on operating systems, or worked on very low level coding, not high level application stuff. That was generally the group of people that we were looking for. But then they had to start from scratch, learning the blockchain concepts and everything.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's probably also what takes a good chunk of that training time if you have to learn blockchain as well.
Yep.
All right.
Your timeline doesn't really surprise me. Like that I think that's how long that it would take. I would say if somebody is taking classes, it would maybe take longer. There's something to be said for the immediacy of actual work, and not theoretical problems, but problems that somebody's breathing down your neck to solve. Probably. So I can see it. I can see what takes it would take 6 months in a real working environment, taking a year in a classroom environment.
All right, so let me throw this up. We got 8 minutes left. So Ted will meet with them and give us more details on specifics next meeting.
Yes.
Next item is this. This is kind of a summary from another discussion that happened on Monday, but we wanted to make sure we covered this in the coalition meeting. The vendors, group of them, for the Secure Smart Contract Library RFP submitted a counter proposal that reduced the scope of the overall work to bring the price down. But the individual cost for the scope items, I don't believe was particularly adjusted. We wanted to take the public vote on this call. Ted, do you guys want to discuss that, or should we just go straight into the vote?
I think all the voters voted for it. So I think we were just going to do the vote again, simply for the formality of having it be recorded.
Jeff, did Eve I'm probably confusing this.
He said no.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Eve has voted no on this. And the question is, are we able to sell and explain why he has, after all of that work, decided that it's not where we should spend the coalition's money?
He did not believe the value per requirement was high enough to spend the money per requirement, is probably the best way to say it. So he was thinking it would be a cheaper solution than it turned out that it was, which is fine, right? Vendors tell us how much it costs, and that's their right. But we just couldn't get to that place where we felt the cost was worth the value we'd get back from it at this time.
That was what I had come back with after the negotiating process. And basically the negotiating process had gone through and according to how it was supposed to go, but in the end the all-in cost for it was not worthwhile, and it was within the boundaries that Eve said that he would support, but it had to include the audit. Yeah, and so they came back and they said, okay, well, we'll include the audit, but we'll take away these parts. And it was just like, it's like you're trying to buy a car and then you find out you get sticker shock on the car, and then you ask yourself, do you really need the car? And I think that's where we were. I think everybody there was, this may come up as a single thing later, but between it not really having the right bang for our very limited bucks, it just didn't seem like the right way to spend it. There's a lot of other ways that we could spend that. I even think that this could be a Pomelo grant. It's more of a Pomelo, grant thing than a Antelope grant or RFP.
Yeah, I thought we were all agreeing with that when we were talking about on Monday. I thought it was a no vote.
We all agreed.
Yeah, we just want to record the vote now.
Oh yeah,
it's just recording the vote.
So TELOS, yes or no?
Jesse.
That's a Jesse question.
No.
Wax?
That's a no from Wax.
UX?
Abstain.
Oh, that's right. All right. Good enough. We've got 3 minutes. I think the summary for the instant finality, IBC, and also the wallet SDK, we are publishing out the ENF health report, and these projects are included in that. So I would, instead of us taking some time today, I would encourage people to go read that when we get that published shortly, like maybe with today or tomorrow. Then looking at the remaining items on the agenda, provable state domains, just a quick update is those requirements are still in process of being written. There's just the people participating in writing the requirements are just over allocated to quite a number of projects right now. That's what is slowing that down. Are there any questions on that or comments? Okay. This next item, sign up for external organizations to get security updates. This is what Douglas referred to about 10 minutes ago, where people might not be joining the coalition, but they are KYC'd into a process to bring them in as known entities, so that when security updates, critical updates go out in Antelope, that these people will be notified. I don't believe at this point we have an owner to drive this. We just identified it as a need. And I think my question to participants today is, do we want to table this till after the holidays, or do we want to assign an owner now and get somebody started on it? How would you like to move forward?
I think if anybody's willing to take ownership of it, that we should start it now and but not necessarily have any expectations about when it's going to be done. One of the reasons that we didn't just
this is a
something.
larger conversation, isn't it? This is a conversation about like these tiers, subscription tiers almost, that ties to the membership of other chains that are not part of the coalition, correct?
My impression is that you guys were considering this the lowest tier of a tiered discussion.
I mean, it frankly doesn't have to be a tier, or it doesn't have to be membership. It's who are we going? How do we know if we had an exploit today and we were going to patch it? How do we know who to distribute that patch to? Right? It's something it's something we can just do through GitHub. But we just have to have a way. It doesn't have to be any kind of formal membership or at any tier. It just has to be a way for us to set for Ultra or Metal or whatever to come in and go, hey guys, we are using Leap, and so how do we get on the patch for Leap? There's, so far as I know, only EOS and TELOS are using Leap right now, and it'll be probably a while before any non-coalition members update it. So this doesn't have to be super pressing, but I think it needs to just exist and have somebody, love it as their own baby, even though it's a very small thing. Let's table it till after the new year.
I'll leave it on, and we can discuss potentially getting an owner for it maybe next time. We
Sure.
are a minute
This
over.
could be as simple as people, the chains will most likely be watchers on the repo. So if there is a security update, then they will be notified of that new tag or branch or whatever.
Yeah, but we often when these things come up, we like to discuss them, have an internal discussion, for 0 days and things like that, so that,
right.
I don't want to say too much, but there's reasons to have a existing quiet discussion group already set up before we ever need it. Same reason you have like a spare tire, right?
So this is more of a process of how we would handle 0-day fixes, and then kind of like identification, resolution, and then publishing. This is not just, I am a chain, how do I get updates? This is actually a process of addressing 0-day exploits.
I love that I think you're absolutely right, Lucas. I think you have the right understanding of it. It's, now that I think about it, it's probably much better than my understanding of it would be. And with all of that in mind, you would probably be a great guy to lead the discussion whenever we end up having it. You would probably be a great owner for this project because of your excellent understanding of the things involved.
Douglas, thank you for settling me up with this. This is, you're very good. Like I said before, you should be a lawyer in your next life.
And I thought we were friends. Why would you say that?
Sure. You can put my name on this. But I think this is more of a discussion than about the kind of vulnerability resolution process.
I think you're right. and I feel it's in good hands now because you understand it and you will drive a great process. So thank you for taking that responsibility on.
All right.
More progress, another win.
Yep. All right, we're 4 minutes over, but I think we're basically done. We can't talk about the top up to fund the RFPs today. And I'm going to combine the scheduling the vendor reviews for P2P with the other one, since we're going to discuss this on Monday and determine next steps. Any last minute things before I call it?
Nope. Everybody have a great week and a great weekend.
Yep. Talk to everybody later.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great weekend. Bye.